Well, welcome guys to the Buff Show. Today we have Zach with Critter Removers, and this is going to be a good episode. I'm excited to have him on. Zach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the owner and founder of Critter Removers. We've been in business now for 10 years. I've been doing this work for about 13 years. Here in Utah, we do more bat remediation and wildlife removal than any other company in the state.
Oh, wow.
We also offer more services than any other company in the state. So, it's been a long ways to get where we're at, but we're here to stay. But I love what I do, and I'm just glad to be here with you today.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Your Google review page is impressive, 359 reviews. So that's a lot. That's a lot of work to get to that point.
It's been, a lot of work, and yeah. So.
What got you into the business?
I've always loved animals since I was a little kid. We got all kinds of stories. I mean, even when I was a kid, I was constantly, bringing weird animals home, and my room was full of animals, so much the fact that I couldn't even sleep in it because the frogs were croaking and everything else. And I don't know, I've always been drawn to animals, and I've done a lot of construction in my past, and I decided I'm going to try to bring those two together. And it's kind of funny, when we started, we'd get one job a week and never thought we would make it, and all of a sudden it just kind of took off, and
that's crazy.
That's how we came about. So
no, that's awesome. And you mentioned before you have two offices or locations, one in Hooper and one in Salt Lake.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, well, sweet. So, and as far as what animals you guys take care of, anywhere from bats, raccoons, what else? Any
kind of wildlife besides deer, bear, and moose we take care of. I mean,
really?
We do coyotes, foxes. When they're in season, we do bobcats. But any kind of wildlife we do. We also do regular pest control as well. But our bread and butter is more on the wildlife side of things.
Yeah. Do you do the voles?
We do voles as well. Yeah, they keep us quite busy too.
Yeah, I bet.
So.
Well, awesome.
Yep.
Well, this episode, I wanted to go over bats in particular because it's something we've been running into a fair amount. I wanted to read you this. We had a deal under contract recently, and the sellers gave us their sellers disclosures, and this is what they kind of put in their disclosures. Mm-hmm. And it freaked my clients out to the point where they're like, we're out.
Yeah. Didn't want to buy.
So they said, for the last several years, we've been getting bats in the house during July. We thought of replacing the roof. We thought that replacing the roof and windows would fix the problem. We had a log restoration company assess the integrity of the logs and fill any problematic gaps in the logs or the chinking. They also had a bat control specialist assess it in 2002. They couldn't give a definite explanation for how the bats get in there. They wanted to do an expensive study that was around $12,000, which they declined. The last 3 years, they've logged the bat encounters, and they're getting fewer and fewer bats every year. July of 2025, they only had 9 bats, down from 21 and 23. The bat specialist theory was that the bats are migrating, and our house or a nearby house was the nesting ground at one time that they returned to. Either the improvements we have made are working to keep the bats out, or there are fewer migrating who return here. Knowing that it is illegal to kill a bat in Utah, we simply catch the bats in the box and release them from the balcony upstairs so they can drop to fly. They cannot take off from the ground like birds do. The bats are found in the early morning before it is daylight. We believe they enter at night, and since they are nocturnal, but we don't know how they get in. July of 2025, they were mostly found in the basement. They like to snuggle up to warm things, blankets, rugs, plush toys, etc. They are not aggressive and rather cute. We expect them in July and have learned to coexist with them for the month.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was a disclosure that we had. And my seller or my buyers were like, they did not think that the bats were cute, and the wife couldn't even deal with this, like the idea of it, and so they just backed out altogether.
Yep. And, we love bats. They're nature's best pest control that we have. and they're great to have around. We just don't want them in your house.
Yeah.
You know, a couple big things, you know, with bats being there for a long time, not only does it open you up to different diseases and respiratory illnesses, but the smell of urine, I often tell people it's way worse than cat urine. I don't know. And it's a lot harder to get rid of.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, bats are awesome, just not in the house.
Not in the house.
Yeah.
Do you guys run into them a lot?
A ton.
Really?
Yeah, they keep us busy all year long. We can only, you know, get them out of there at certain times. But, yeah, they keep us busy.
When are the times that you can
So
mitigate them?
anytime after September 1st, we can, you know, start the eviction process and get them out of there.
Okay.
We don't kill anything whatsoever. We just simply evict them and let them move on.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
crazy. So give us kind of some of the backgrounds, like what kind of bats are we seeing here in Utah mostly?
Yeah, so here in Utah, we've got about 18 different species of bats. The ones you'll mostly see are usually the Mexican free-tail bat. That's a migratory species that migrates every year. And then there's a little brown bat and the big brown bat. There's also a Ouray bat. Those are the ones that we deal with the most. Yeah. So.
How many bats would you say a typical house? Like if you run into them, is it just like a few or is it a ton?
No, you know, we see some where there's just a few, but then we come into contact with thousands and thousands every year. You know, if your home isn't taken care of, you know, sealed up so they can't get inside, even if you've got a migratory species, every time those bats migrate and come back, their colony gets bigger and bigger. So, you know, that colony is always growing.
So, and they're just there during the summertime, basically?
Yeah,
And then,
so they're in the summer, and then once it gets, you know, colder, typically when you have a lot of nights that are, you know, below 40 degrees, they end up migrating, and then they just come back every single year. So
do we know where they go when they
a
migrate?
lot of them go to Mexico, Brazil,
No kidding.
and it's crazy how they migrate that far, you know, especially when you see them.
You're like, you can fly that far.
Yeah, you can fly that far. Yeah, I always thought, you know, it was crazy with pigeons, but yeah, when you actually watch bats fly too, and how little their body is, you wouldn't think they'd be able to fly, you know, those kind of distances. But
And they just fly at night and then
Yep.
like bunker down during the day?
yep, and they'll have little spots, you know, that they stop off on the way. But yeah, they just
That's crazy.
make that migrate.
So, do all bats carry rabies?
No, so not all bats carry rabies, and especially in Utah, you know, we vaccinate, you know, our animals,
Yeah.
and so we don't have a huge problem with rabies. But bats, we obviously don't do that, and so they carry rabies more than any other animal that we deal with.
Okay.
But yeah, they do. Some do carry rabies, but you know, the
It's like-
majority doesn't.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And then other diseases and stuff like that, are they, can you talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit?
so they carry quite a few different diseases. The ones that we see infect people more than anything are histoplasmosis. It's a respiratory fungus, basically, that people contract through the spores. And that's the biggest one. But I mean, there's Ebola, there's Nipah, leptospirosis. But the main ones that we deal with is the histoplasmosis. that
That's
we see
crazy.
the
And
most
do you
of.
have to get it from them by them biting you, or is
Nope.
it just
so
like
it lives in the soil, and it can live for years and years and years. And basically, when that stuff's disturbed or their feces are disturbed, those it basically kicks up that dust,
Oh,
and
into
you
the air.
inhale that, and that's how you get it.
Gotcha?
Yeah. so,
Interesting.
yeah.
Can they? Do they bite? Can they bite you?
Yeah, so bats can definitely bite,
Yeah.
but they're always trying to get away. They're not ever going to just attack you, you know,
Yeah.
for no reason. Usually, when people come into contact with them, sometimes it's when they're, especially when it comes to homes and they're having bats in homes. A lot of times when they're sleeping or whatnot, one will fall, you know, down on their bed or whatnot and scratch them or bite them, and that's usually, you know, how it comes. But bats don't actively seek to bite you or
bite
anything
you.
like that. Yeah.
And are bats? Are they all blind?
No, there's actually not one species of bats that's blind.
Oh, really?
And I always wonder where the term blind as a bat came from, but that's definitely not true.
So they can
So
see.
they can see, and then they use that echolocation, and
Wow.
yeah, so they can actually see pretty decent, especially at night too, which is
That's
interesting.
crazy.
Yeah.
So and then they're mostly like sleeping during the day, hanging upside down,
Yep.
and then at night is when they're moving around a
Yep.
lot.
That's when they come out and actively seek all the bugs and mosquitoes that we hate, and then go back to their roosts and do it all over again. So
It's crazy.
yeah.
So let's talk about it. Bats in regards to real estate. Like, where do you normally see bats most often when it comes to real estate?
Yep. So on real estate, we see them a lot in eaves of people's houses, in vents, vent openings. Basically, they can be anywhere on a house. We see them get in the soffits quite a bit. A lot of times, once they can get in the soffit, they can usually get anywhere in the attic or
Yeah.
anything like that. So we see a lot of damage, not damage, but a lot of droppings and feces and stuff like that in attics, and we remediate all of that.
What are the signs of a bat? Like, because you probably don't notice them.
Yeah,
Right away.
so a lot of people don't even know that they have them for years and years until usually they'll start smelling them. I'll be parked out on a road on, some of these homes that we go to, and before I even walk up to the home, I can smell the urine.
Really?
So that's one way to know. And then high concentration of droppings. A lot of people, their droppings look exactly like mice droppings, and a lot of people, they think they have mice that they're dealing with. But in reality, it's usually bats.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to tell the difference between mice droppings and bat droppings is if you put a glove on and you basically crumble that up and put it out in the sun, it'll shimmer because those bats are constantly eating winged, insects.
Oh, interesting.
And so that's an easy way to distinguish mice droppings from bat droppings. But yeah, the smell, that's a big one. Accumulation of droppings. You can actually hear bats when you get a big colony. The bigger the colony, the louder they are. And that's usually a dead giveaway. Usually, they start coming out at night. And so just like you said, a lot of people don't even know they have them. But I always just say, definitely keep your eye out for accumulation of droppings. The longer bats have been in there, their urine will actually crystallize too. So you'll see kind of a white residue where they're coming and going from, because when they come in, they actually spray. And over time, that'll basically just look like, kind of a crystallization right by the entry points.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
Wow. And then if you see like a bat on your house, like, do you see them like onesie twosies just here and there, or if you see one, does that most likely mean they're pollinating there?
Yeah, so typically, usually if you're seeing them more than you could have some random bats that roost on the exterior of your home, now and again. But if you're seeing it regularly, most likely there's an entry point that's near, where they're basically roosting up. Because a lot of times what these bats will do, they'll go out, they'll catch insects at night, and then they'll come and land like somewhere on a house. And that there's not really a whole lot you can do. There's no commercial deterrents or repellents that actually work on bats. Unfortunately, I wish there was, because that'd make it real easy to
keep them away.
To keep them away. But yeah, so
I've read there's different, like, I was just Googling it at one point, and people were saying, I can't remember, different products that they're like, you could try this, but you haven't found anything that really works.
There's tons of online stuff that people try. People try mothballs. People try
that was one of them.
peppermint oil,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I've never seen those work well enough to basically use them on people's homes. I would never sell a product that doesn't 100% work. But like I said, I wish that stuff worked, but I've never seen anything like that'll work. Some deterrents will work a little bit. Some people will put like fishing line coming down where those bats are roosting. That helps a little bit, but it's aesthetically not very pleasing to have a bunch of
Fishing line?
stuff hanging off the front of your house.
Is it because they don't like flying through it?
Yeah,
or what?
exactly.
Huh.
Yeah, and it's, of course, usually where a lot of people have the problems with bats is right on their entryway
Right.
of their home, and these bats will defecate, and they'll clean it up, and then the next night it's right back there.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
so yeah.
Yeah, that is not easy to work with.
Yes.
And you can't just kill them.
Yep,
They're
you can't-
illegal to kill,
Yep,
right?
they're federally protected, so they're basically, the government looks at them the same way they look at eagles.
Wow.
Yeah, you can't physically, kill them. Plus, you don't want to kill them. You just, want to evict them, and
Yeah.
they'll be a benefit to the ecosystem. So.
Is that the main reason they're protected? Is just because they're so beneficial?
Yeah, they're so beneficial. Yeah, they keep the numbers down, especially near me. We have so many mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And when I bought my house, the first thing I did, because I know there's so many bats in that area, is I bat-proofed my home. But they take care of those mosquitoes great, and I
Right.
love that. So
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And you can't just scare them out, right?
Yep. Yep. That they'll just come right back. I know people have had them roosting, on the outside of their house, and they've sprayed them with a hose, thinking maybe that would get rid of them, but they still just come right back.
That's
So,
crazy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you evict bats.
Yeah.
What does that process look
Yeah.
like?
So basically, what we do. With bats, you got to seal up the whole home once they've established a colony, because they've now got a vested interest to be in that house. That's their home. And so if you don't seal up the whole house, what'll happen is when we go to evict them, we use a valve system which allows them to fly out but not back in. If we don't seal up the house, they'll find any other little nook and cranny to get back inside that home. And so what we do is we seal up the whole entire home, and then we install our valve system, allow those bats to fly out. Once they, we usually leave those on for about a week. And that during that time, as long as the temperature is 40 degrees or above, all those bats will be out. And then we just remove the valves, seal up that opening, and
Wow.
you're bat proofed. So
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And when you're going around inspecting your house, like how big of a hole can they get through?
1/4 inch. So
Quarter
they need a
inch.
1/4 inch, and that's
cow.
and it's crazy because even sometimes on where like J channel meets the brick or the home,
Yeah.
a lot of times you'll have something that's even a little bit smaller than a 1/4 inch, and they manage to squeeze right through it. They're kind of like raccoons. Once they get their head in something, they can get their whole body in,
That's
and that's
crazy.
that's kind of how bats are as well.
So when you're like bat proofing a house, what does that look like?
It's very tedious.
Yeah.
And one thing that we found, we've learned everything trial through error. There was, when we started out, we would just seal up the spots, on that side where the bats are using, but we found that they'll just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so basically what we do, we just start at one end of the house, work around the whole entire thing. Every house is different. Some houses require, mortar, other houses require silicone. But we go around the whole entire house, and when a customer does that, has us do the seal up, we 100% warranty our work. So if a bat gets in 6 years down the road, they're 100% warranted by us. And that's one of
Wow.
the things that, if a customer just wants kind of a Band-Aid on, we can't warranty that just because we can't, guarantee they're not going to get in
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah. So you really
So-
take your time to go around
Yeah.
the whole house, the
Yeah,
roof,
and usually what we do, obviously, I usually will take out a whole crew of 4 guys.
Yeah.
Each of us just take a side of the house, and we kind of just go to town, knock it out, and that way it's convenient for a customer, as well as splitting up the work. Each house is different sizes, and sometimes we need lifts and ladders and stuff like that, and we find that to be a pretty efficient way to do it.
Yeah. So, and you can only like evict the bats between what time? When was it again?
So basically, the maternity season is typically May through August. And so you can't evict them during that time. You can seal up the home, but the entry points you can't do anything with, and actually get the bats out of there until September 1st. And the reason for that is that's when they're having their babies, and they don't want babies dying in the walls, and they want those things out in the ecosystem doing their job. So during those times you can't touch them, but after that September 1st date you can.
So you guys get pretty busy from like September 1st.
Yeah, and by the time they're getting ready to migrate, they really kind of start acting kooky. They're more vocal during that time, and it's almost like they know in the air that it's time to
Yeah.
get ready to go. And that's when a lot of people realize that, they've got, bats, that's when they're more vocal. So.
And we're shooting this just for reference. Next week's Thanksgiving. So do you think by now all the bats have kind of left, or do you
Nope,
think?
I just did a job the other day, and they still had a full colony in there.
Really?
So, and it's kind of weird because every year, sometimes I'll see them, later on in the year, and other times, not so much. But yeah, it's
Wow. So if you think you're having bats, the best time to have you kind of come over, because you could probably, by the evidence or droppings, their stains and everything like that, you could be like, yeah, you'll have bats back again this spring or summer.
Yep.
Let's get this sealed up so that they don't come back, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So, and that's usually, and we can deal with the situation all year long. We just can't get them out of there until those, certain times.
Yeah.
But the second you think you have a problem, I would recommend, call in, and so at least you have an idea of, your cost and everything else. So.
What do you have, like kind of a rough estimate on what it takes to mitigate
Yeah,
bats?
so every house is completely different. Some jobs require more. There's older houses, newer houses. They're all built with different materials. There's so many things that go into it, including the colony size, and as well as the cleanup. Some houses we don't need to suck out all the insulation and blow new stuff in. Other times we do.
Yeah.
And so the price is just, they're
varies
so all
so
over
much,
the
yeah.
place. Yeah. But I would probably, on like a 2,500 square foot home, if there's not any cleanup to do, to seal up your whole home, you're probably looking 1,800 up to 3,000.
Yeah.
Unless, it's a much bigger home. But that also, like I said, that just varies just depending on, a lot of factors.
So a few years ago, my mother-in-law, she's up in Hennifer, they did a remodel and then put on a new roof, and then bats just like something changed. And then she had a full colony of bats. Like I remember going over there one Sunday for family dinner, and there were bats crawling around the walls and the brick.
You
just
could hear 'em?
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could see them too.
Oh, on the outside?
Yeah, on the
Oh, wow.
outside. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like thousands of bats.
Yeah.
And I think she was in that time frame where she had to wait like a couple more weeks until she could do the valve.
So she had to live with that.
Yeah, she had to live with that for a minute. And then they did that, and she hasn't had an issue since. So it's been kind of
that's
crazy.
great. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a huge deal. And it's crazy how like that house sat there for, that house was built in the 70s or 80s. And then just like it was like 2020, I was probably like 2021 or 2022. So like, I guess that is that their migrating past changing, or a bat found like, hey, this is a good place.
It could be either one of those.
Yeah.
It could be either one of those. So I think a lot of them, they find those places. They tell all their buddies, hey, this is, a great place. And, and they all move in. So.
Oh, man. When do you see them start coming back? So they leave like November, December. By December, they're probably mostly gone.
Usually we don't see them November, December. Well, we see them in November, but December and January, we usually don't see them.
Okay.
And then it's kind of sporadic, weather dependent on when we start seeing them come back. There are obviously the species that hibernate, but usually what I find with those is they typically need to be in a place where the temperature is pretty much stays the same. And that's kind of why they like caves and stuff as well, because that temperature stays pretty consistent year round. And a lot of times if the temperatures are fluctuating, they come in and out of hibernation, and a lot of times they die because they burn up their fat reserves coming in and out. But yeah, we do
crazy.
have those species too, but more of the migratory species is what I see more of than anything in Utah.
When do they start coming back? Do you notice?
I would say right around February is when I start
Really?
seeing them.
That early?
Yeah, so.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I would have guessed that it would have been a lot later.
Yeah.
So if you're a seller, what's the best things you can do to kind of make sure your house is bat proof and stuff like that?
Yeah, I actually think that they should start upping the price on homes, whether it's critter proofed or not.
Yeah.
But as a seller, the best thing you can do, especially if you've had bats, is have the home, sealed up, disinfected, obviously, if you're looking to sell it. And that way it's safe for whoever buys the home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think a lot of people don't even think about, bat issues or something like that.
And that's even with like wildlife. They build these homes, and obviously the contractors, they're not thinking of a big raccoon or bats getting inside. For me, it's great. It keeps us busy, but for a homeowner, not as good.
So how big of a deal would you place? Like if a buyer's under contract on a house, they find evidence of bats, they're there actively. Like, has there ever been a house that you couldn't mitigate or fix?
We've very rarely, is there something that I would deem, non-livable.
Yeah.
Usually we can remediate everything. There's been some that have been really, really bad, but that's usually years and years and years, of those bats being in there.
And there's probably other issues with the house, like if they've been there that long.
Yeah, exactly. So, but usually everything can be 100% remediated and safe, brought back to, being healthy to live in.
So if they hire you guys and you guys do the eviction process, seal it up, like you have a warranty?
Absolutely. And what I always tell customers when they're shopping around or whatnot, always ask if the company doing the work warranties their work. If they say no, or they only put a year warranty on it, there's a reason for that. They don't feel confident of the work that they're doing. There's some situations it's a little bit harder. We put a 10-year warranty on it.
Oh, wow.
So if we do the seal up, you've got a 10-year warranty, you're protected.
That's impressive.
The ones that are harder to deal with are your cabins. Because a lot of times, those logs and stuff shift so much over time that even with chinking and stuff like that, over time that'll crack and whatnot. And so those ones are a little bit harder to deal with. But we do a 10-year warranty on all our residential homes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's impressive. That really, I think, speaks to your work and that you guys know what you're doing when it comes to bats.
Absolutely.
Is there anything on the bat section that you feel like you want to add, or questions that I haven't asked that you feel like are important for homeowners or buyers to be aware of?
One thing that a lot of people don't know about are bat bugs. So when you have a high population of bats, you're going to have bat bugs. And I don't know if you've ever seen what those look like or not. They look exactly like bed bugs. Almost. Really? The only way you're going to tell the difference is if you put a magnifying glass up to them. You can, differentiate those two. But a lot of times it's not just getting the bats out of there. It's basically getting the bugs out of there as well. Now, there's a couple good things. The bat bugs, they'll still feed on a human host, but they can't reproduce off of the blood of a human. So they have to have a bat host to be able to reproduce, but they can lay dormant for up to a year, without eating. So it's important it's important to, when you address bats, that not only, do you address the health concerns, but you take care of the bat bugs as well.
Bat bugs? I've never even heard of bat bugs.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't, and it's funny. We did a church one time, and they said we've had 3 different companies come in trying to handle these bed bugs, and it's in all the rows of seatings and everything, and they said they just can't get rid of them. Well, I did a full-on inspection and found out it was bats, and what was happening was they were falling through the ceiling, and so they were basically being treated for bed bugs and not for bats. And so we basically got the bats out of there, disinfected, and obviously treated it for the bat bugs, and that was the end of the problem.
That's crazy. So on every house, do you normally treat for bat bugs?
It depends on how big the colony is and how long they've been there. A lot of times we can, if we can actually physically see that colony or in the area they're at, we can usually find out if there's bat bugs. They'll be crawling all over and whatnot. So
Are there like licenses and certifications that you need to be a bat
Yeah,
specialist?
absolutely. You got to be federally licensed to be able to even deal with them.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we've got that, and you got to have that to be even able to touch them or do anything else.
Are there like do you need that for raccoons and other animals?
We have to have, it's called a COR, where we
Okay.
can deal with those. So, yeah, that's another license that you have to have.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What's the craziest bat house that you've ever had
You know,
to take care
the
of?
one that I always think, we've done some that the colonies are just crazy, but I remember when I first got into this and started doing it, I was, pretty new. I did a house that I thought there was, a couple hundred bats. Well, we sealed it up, we put our bat valves on, and I get a call from the customer, and she says, Zach, there's bats everywhere. And I was a little mind boggled because I thought she was saying there was bats, on the inside of the house. So I immediately, went out to her house, and she probably had, it was probably about a 30-foot side of her home that was probably about, I don't know, about 20, 25 feet tall. And you could not even see the brick on the home. There was just thousands of bats all on the outside, because what had happened is they came out and they couldn't get back inside. And, it's a good, for us, it's a good sign when we see that, for the fact that that's saying they're not getting back in,
Yeah.
but I've never seen a colony, thousands and thousands like that. You literally just could not see any of the brick. That one
crazy.
always, sticks in my mind, because that is almost like something out of a horror movie or
Yeah.
something, but
That's kind of what we saw at my mother-in-law's house, but it
Same
wasn't
here.
near like that. It was
Uh-huh.
just like you'd see a few like crawling
Here
on
and
the
there.
walls and
Yeah.
stuff, and it was weird. It's like, whoa.
yeah.
They just how they move around and
Yeah.
act like it is
Oh,
like a
yeah.
horror movie.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, no, this has been super insightful as far as bats and mitigating those. What other? Let's talk about some of the other animals that you run into a lot and kind of what you can offer homeowners there as
Yeah,
well.
so what we do is we critter proof your home, and that's for every kind of animal, all the way from mice, all the way raccoons, squirrels, skunks, you name it. What our goal is that you call us, you never have to deal with an animal getting inside your home again. And so, like I said, any kind of wildlife problems, whether it be pigeons, you name it, we can deal
Yeah.
with. And it's kind of funny because a lot of different areas deal with different problems. Out in your South Jordan, Saratoga Springs, those areas, they have real bad pigeons.
Oh, really?
The avenues, they've got a lot of raccoons, squirrels, rats. But we've basically adapted to be able to serve, all customers as well as all wildlife issues that come about. The best option is prevention. And that's, where we come in, critter proof your home, and you'll never have to have any of those issues whatsoever.
Yeah. Do you find most of it's like just delayed maintenance on?
Some of it is, but I think a lot of it comes down to, when they're building these homes, especially, you wouldn't think this, but a lot of these big homes, they go up so fast nowadays
Yeah.
that there's a lot of gaps and stuff like that, which, just makes it an easy target for animals looking to have a home.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a little of both of those. So
Yeah, because like I'm sure with mice and rats, like they can get through tiny holes.
Yep,
as
exactly.
well.
Yeah.
Raccoons.
And that's what's tough about, your smaller, especially mice, they just squeeze in such tight little places. One thing I didn't bring up about bats, which we're very lucky for this, is they don't actively chew through things. So they're not like
That's
mice
true,
and rats that chew through, anything they want to get in. Bats don't do that. So on a plus side, that's a good thing. But
Have you had buyers call you and just be like, "Hey, what's your thoughts on this house?"
I get that all the time.
do
And,
ya?
We've actually seen a lot of people that are mad when they purchased a house and it wasn't disclosed, that there was bats and whatnot. So we see it all.
Yeah.
We get people calling all the time saying, how expensive do you think this would be if I bought this house to have you guys fix this or whatnot. But
Yeah.
yeah, we definitely get those calls.
Do you have like if somebody wants you, if they're under contract on the house, they want you to come look at it? Is there a cost for like
Yeah,
an
so we
inspection?
charge $125 to come out.
Okay.
and do a full-on inspection. Hopefully they don't, need us to do anything, but if there is, then we give them a quote, and if they go with that quote, that $125 goes towards the cost of the job, so you're not out any money on that. So
that's not a bad.
And I often tell people too, a lot of times you'll have home inspections and stuff like that, before you buy a home, but a lot of those guys, they really don't look for, a lot of them aren't going to notice a little mouse dropping or, stuff like that. Whereas, you call us before you buy a house, we can say, hey, this house is very secure. These are some recommendations, and whether you have us do the repair work or not, at least you know how secure that home is and the vulnerabilities of it. So
I feel like on just about any house, you could find something that could be done better.
Absolutely.
At least. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely.
And even just, do you have customers that have you come out like every couple of years just because houses move?
Yep.
Things
over
like
time.
caulk will shrink. And
yep, exactly. Yeah. We have customers that do that all the time. A lot of our customers that, are on our quarterly plans will go out when we fill their bait boxes or whatever, and just look around to make sure they're still secure or whatnot. But
Gotcha. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We just did a house in Eden that we bought, and we pulled the roof off, and it's like it's a vaulted roof, and like there's no attic or anything like that. But because the roof is on like the decking, there's a breather between, and there's some foam insulation. So I've been nervous about like bats getting up in there.
Yep.
So we're putting on new fascia and
that's
soffit
smart,
and everything like that.
Especially that area.
Yeah, because when we pulled the roof off, the tenants that were in there, they called me. There's a bat in the house, and it was a dead bat that probably was like dead inside the roof when they pulled it off, and it had just fallen through one of the cracks. But it got me nervous. I'm like, shoot, like if there was a bat in the roof before we pulled the roof off, like they might be wanting to come back
in. No, that's smart. You're doing that.
So anyways, I've just you get one of them, and like then it turns into a big problem over time.
Oh yeah.
One other question: how long does it take for like a colony to form? Because it probably starts out with just a few.
It usually starts out with a few, and then it just grows year after year. But sometimes what happens is, and I always joke with my customers because we'll be sealing up their house, and they say, well, where are the bats going to go after this? And I say, well, hopefully your neighbor's house, and then we'll do their house, and we'll just, by the time we're done, we'll have the whole neighborhood done.
Right.
So, but I mean, they just get bigger and bigger every year, and they're, different colonies are, moving every so often too. And so you could literally have no bats, and then all of a sudden you just have a colony that moves in that's up thousands of bats.
That's crazy. That's
so
wild.
Imagine waking up to something like that you never had problems with, and then all of a sudden you've got a 1,000+ colony of bats.
Well, and
at your house.
It's so damaging just because of all the feces and stuff like that they leave.
Oh yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So now that we're heading into like December, January, do you guys have like, is this your slow time, or are there other animals that people call on you for?
We definitely slow down more in the wintertime, which is kind of weird because you'd think a lot more animals are, trying to move in and find homes. But usually we see a huge uptake in mice and rats and stuff like that during the winter where they're trying to get in places warm.
Right.
But we stay busy all year long, but it does slow down a little bit for us in the wintertime.
And then probably picks up a lot
in
spring and summer and fall.
And I always, in the summer, I want it to slow down, and in the winter, I want it to pick up.
Yeah,
so.
I know how that goes.
Yeah.
Well, this has been super insightful.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to mention or leave with our listeners before
no,
we wrap
I think you've covered quite a bit, and I appreciate you having me on, and this is actually pretty fun.
Yeah, no, this has been
First
awesome.
podcast, by the way, so this is actually pretty fun.
I love it. And in the notes and everything, we'll link your website, your contact info and everything like that.
That would be awesome.
So, and then if you have like an Instagram or social media accounts, we can share this with you as well.
That would be awesome.
There, so
right on. Well, thanks a lot.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.